In this Fusion tutorial, you'll learn how to build a honeycomb pattern that works across all kinds of shapes and forms. A powerful concept you can reuse in countless projects with extra learning resources at the end of this tutorial to take your skills even further. Keyboard shortcuts appear in the bottom left corner to help you move faster. And as always, start with the new component and make it active. Start your first sketch on the horizontal construction plane. Draw a polygon centered above the origin. This gives you a clean reference point throughout the design. If you're following along with my dimensions, set the radius to 5 mm. Next, draw 2 lines from the center of the origin. One should reach the midpoint of a polygon side. Fusion will help you snap right to it. These lines will guide your honeycomb pattern. They're just for reference, so turn both into construction lines before moving on. Then extrude your sketch 4 mm to create a solid body. You can confirm the extrude using the default settings, just like you see on the screen. Once that's done, your sketch likely disappeared automatically. Head over to the browser and turn it back on. You'll need those construction lines visible. They'll serve as axes for your pattern. If you're having trouble selecting the solid polygon, change the object type to bodies. Then select both construction lines. They might be hard to spot at first, but switching to top view using the view cube makes them much easier to find. Set distribution to spacing and direction to symmetric for both axis 1 and axis 2. This setup lets you work evenly from the origin, which will save time later in the project. When adjusting the distance setting, keep in mind that your selected axes don't align with the polygon's radius. So while the polygon has a 5 mm radius, that's not a perfect reference here, because the distance from the center to the middle of one side is actually 4.33 mm. That subtle difference matters when you're fine-tuning the pattern spacing. A radius of 4.33 times 2 equals a diameter of 8.66. If you settle for a distance of 9 mm, it means that you get 34 mm between each polygon. This will be the thickness of your honeycomb pattern if you follow this tutorial with my dimensions. Next, increase the quantity, and the most important thing in this step is that the shape you plan to create later fits within this pattern. The philosophy is that you will save time by creating more than you need and removing the excess later. Your next task is to create a new sketch on the horizontal construction plane. This sketch will be used to drive the 3D shape, so it's a good idea to keep the honeycomb pattern visible while you work. That way, you can match the sketch to the boundaries of the pattern. In situations like this, it's helpful to know that you can press and hold the left mouse button to make selections through multiple objects at depth. Set your first center diameter circle to 100 mm. The final shape will be 1 mm thicker than the sketch line, bringing the total diameter to 102 mm. If you want to maintain a relationship between the two circles, use the offset tool to create the second one from the first. Since the added thickness will be on the inside, this circle will take on the exact diameter you give it when you turn it into a 3D shape. You can fine-tune the sketch so that the circles align neatly with the edges of the honeycomb pattern. Once you're happy with the design, jump into the extrude command and extrude the sketch up to the top of the honeycomb pattern. This makes sure this new circular body updates correctly in case you modify the honeycomb pattern later. You have hundreds of bodies in your Fusion project at this stage, and it can be easier to make the right selections in the next step if you turn off sketch visibility and show only the bodies through the project browser. Select your newest body as the target body. and turn off its visibility while selecting all other bodies as your tool bodies. Set the operation type to cut and confirm the action. Then, turn the visibility back on for your only remaining body in the project browser. You now have a honeycomb pattern, but no edges around it. To fix this, reuse your circular sketches. They already have the exact dimensions you need. Use the surface extrude command to create an infinitely thin surface and link this new body operations to the top face of the honeycomb pattern. You need to give those thin surfaces some thickness, and the thicken command is a simple way to do that. Start with the outer circle and give it a thickness of 1 mm. This adds 1 mm to each side, so the total diameter becomes 2 mm larger. Repeat the thicken command for the inner circle, but make sure to change the direction unless you want to push the new thickness into the honeycomb pattern. Do a quick quality check on your model from different angles using the view cube, and if needed, revisit steps by right-clicking features in the Fusion timeline. We still have some important steps left, and I've got some video recommendations at the end, so stick with me until the finish. Adding fillets to your model is a great way to improve the appearance, the user experience when holding the product, and in some cases, strength and durability, depending on your design. You can select all the edges you want to fillet, so you only need to update one data point if you make future fillet edits. Let's combine the bodies. One advantage of creating those bodies as new body operations earlier is that you kept the option to work with them individually. But if you want to simplify your model and avoid constantly hiding and showing the right bodies, just select the target body, then select your tool bodies and change the operation type to join. Once you do this, your tool bodies will disappear from the project browser unless you check Keep Tools, but that's not relevant for this honeycomb pattern project. Finish your project by applying an appearance. It's a great way to test different versions of your design digitally before choosing a color for your 3D print. A useful tip when browsing appearances: search by the look, like glossy, or by both the look and the color, like glossy yellow, to quickly narrow down your options. I recommend that you check out the 2 videos linked at the end if you're interested in more Fusion projects about honeycomb patterns. And I'd also like to take the opportunity and thank everyone who's watching the videos, liking, sharing, commenting, and giving super thanks. Your support keeps the channel going. Thank you for watching and see you in the next tutorial.